Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I'm your host, Randi-lee. On the show, we interview other writers and we talk about mental health from their personal journeys. If you have not already hit that like and subscribe button, go ahead, do that now so that you never miss an episode. Welcome, Art. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
I am honored, proud, excited, full of emotion, and full of passion, ready to launch off of your platform.
Oh, I like that. You're like ready and raring to go. Perfect. So tell us about who Art Costello is.
Well, Art Costello is a 75-year-old man that lives in Austin, Texas, uh, who has done everything in his life that he has ever wanted to do because he expected it to happen in a good way.
Nice.
Yeah, isn't that kind of strange?
You ain't got no bucket list?
No, I've done everything I've ever wanted to do because I do it when I want to do it. And
I like that.
I live in the moment. I learned, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm a former United States Marine. And
Okay.
I learned in Vietnam one big lesson. And that lesson was don't put anything off for later, not a moment later.
Oh,
Because,
I love it.
because the next moment may never come.
Yep. Yeah. That's it.
So,
That's going to be the name of the episode. Don't put it off.
yeah, so do it now.
Yep. That is the best advice. Okay, episode's done. we can't top it. Episode's done.
Well, I can top it, and I will top it.
Excellent. So we're off to a good start then.
Yeah, let's get started on my journey.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. So you start wherever you feel is the best starting point.
It's really the best way to start it is when I was born. I was born into a middle class, nice family with beautiful home in New Jersey.
Okay.
And everything went great. I grew up loving the Brooklyn Dodgers. I'm an avid baseball player, fan. My uncles and my dad all taught me baseball. So I started, as soon as I could hold the ball in my hand, I was throwing it.
Okay, side note, I like baseball. We watch games and such. And me and my husband, we joined the church league a bajillion years ago now. And we played for 2 seasons. But anyways, during one of the games, I think I was first base. I was gonna catch that ball. And I did with my face.
Yeah. It happens.
Just a side note. I needed to share.
Let me ask, now that we're on this, let me ask you this question. Did that ever stop you from playing baseball again?
Oh no, I kept playing. I just knew that I wasn't very good at catching it.
That's my girl.
I always hit it. I never was struck out. So
anyway, as long as it didn't stop you.
Nope.
That's the important thing.
No. And I would go and play again. Just maybe don't put me at first base.
Yeah. Anyway, let me continue with my journey because it's gonna really enhance your show with what's going on.
Yeah, let's go. Life. I like to do sidebars. It's fun.
Yeah, that's fun. It is. We may have a 3-hour show on our hands.
That's okay. Fun. I'll just chop it up into multiple episodes. So good.
So anyway, my life was great as a young person from birth to 8 years old. At 8 years old, my mother decided she was going to up and move the family from New Jersey to upstate New York, a little town in the southern tier of New York. And the farm was so dilapidated and run down, we didn't have running water. We didn't have indoor plumbing, so we had an outhouse. And it was so falling apart. The roof leaked, the floors were caving in. It was a mess. And we had just come from this beautiful home.
Yeah.
On top of that, I had no neighbors to play baseball with, no kids to play baseball. Our nearest neighbor.
Big change.
Well, that change was so devastating to me that I became very depressed.
Aww.
And I didn't know what was going to become of my life.
So it was you. So far I've heard you and your mom. Who else lived with you?
I had a younger sister and a brother who's 10 years older. But
Okay.
my brother didn't live with us. He moved with us, but he lived in town. We
Oh,
lived
okay.
out on the farm. My father was a functioning alcoholic, loved the man dearly, but he drank from Friday night until Monday morning,
Okay.
and just stayed blitzed. Um, Went to work every day, but when we got to the farm, he got very ill.
Oh.
And he didn't want to move. I know in my heart, I never had the conversation with him, but I know in my heart he didn't want to move, and it caused him to have a peptic ulcer that burst, and
Ooh.
he ended almost dying. But when he got out of the hospital and he was well enough, he moved to the city because he was a printer all of his life, and
Oh.
he where are you going to print on a farm? He ain't going to have it.
Yeah, no.
So my home life became very dysfunctional, uh, tragic in a lot of ways. My mom started drinking. My dad drank whenever he came home on the weekends and really didn't have much interaction with the family.
Yeah.
Well, I love my parents through all this, but what happened to me is that in my loneliness and despair, and on top of this, I got to tell you, if you've ever lived in a small town, you know how cruel a small town can be when your parents are, and this is back in 1959,
Ooh. Yeah.
when your parents are separated, your mom is not, your mom's going to the bars and hanging out at the bars, your dad's
Yeah.
away.
Separated parents back then was not the common.
No,
Like now, that's okay.
it happens now.
Yeah.
It's just more accepted. But anyway, even the teachers that I had, except for one, was and by today's standards would be considered abusive. They made fun of us. We were considered white trash. We were, I only had one pair of shoes and one pair of jeans and maybe two or three shirts and
Oh.
all that. So we didn't have much. I mean, my whole life had changed.
Yeah.
But out of that desperation, and this is the important part, and this is the thing that everybody should understand. Out of that desperation, I started going up this hill that was near our house and laying on my back, and I would ask God what was going to become of me.
At 8 years old.
Yep, 9 years old. I was actually 9 when I
9 by
started.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow. I think that's an important sidebar. And I've said it in other episodes if people have watched the other episodes, but mental health knows no age, right?
doesn't.
Like you had said by 8 years old, with all this big change, you were depressed, didn't know what was going to happen to you. And that's a reality for a lot of children. And I always love pointing that out to people.
Let me just throw this out real quick,
Yeah.
just as a teaser of what's coming up. 60 years later, in reflection, I ended up writing a book called Expectation Therapy. And
Okay.
it was from those journeys going up that hill and laying on my back, because after many, many times going up that hill and asking what was going to become of me, I heard a voice that said, your job is just to be good, just to do good and become a doer and do everything that you can. I took it to heart. It scared me at the time. When you hear a voice, you don't know where it's coming from, if it's inside you or is it really coming from above or where is it coming from?
Yeah.
But it scared me, but I believed in it. And my belief system became very entrenched in those journeys up that hill and having the conversation.
That's
And
good.
and at age 17, I figured out what I was supposed to do, and that was go in the United States Marine Corps.
Okay.
So the Marine Corps gave me the structure, the discipline, and the belief in myself that I could do anything. I became a believer in myself and in my good Lord above, that anything and everything was possible as long as I put effort into it, and I did it. So let's jump forward a lot of years. I became a music talent scout. I played semi-pro baseball.
Wow.
I owned my own business for years. I married the woman of my dreams, a beautiful blonde girl from Southern California, blue-eyed blonde that I just fell in love with. Everything went great for years because I've always been a doer and I've always been a person who believes in myself. And I learned from the experience at 9 years old that if you don't try and you don't expect it to happen, it never will.
Yeah.
So everything was great. I mean, I had a successful business. My music career went great. I enjoyed every bit of it, and I had the beautiful family that I prayed I would have, and all of those things. And in 2003, the rug was pulled out from underneath me.
Uh-oh.
My wife of 35 years was diagnosed with ovarian cancer.
Oof.
And we were positive, believe me, we were positive.
Yeah.
And we thought we could get through it. Unfortunately, in 2006, September 16, 2006, she passed away from the ovarian cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it happened. It was part of life. It's part of my journey.
Yeah.
And it made me who I am today. And it's
Yeah.
brought me this full circle. But what happened was she had told our children that you need to watch Dad because he's gonna fall apart. It's gonna be tough on him. It's gonna be tough on you, but it's gonna be tough on him. So watch him. And she was right. In 2006, after she passed away, I started drinking. I started chasing women. I started doing all the things I had never really done in my life that, I just kind of fell apart again.
Yeah, you just didn't want to face the reality of losing the love of your life. Like
the
way you described her is like out of a fairy tale.
Anyway, 3 years later, 2009, my kids come out to the ranch that we have outside of Austin, Texas, and said, Dad, you promised Mom you weren't going to do this, and we've given you time to breathe and do everything you can. It's time to get yourself together and get your, I won't say what they said, but get your stuff together.
Get your butt in gear.
Yeah, that was kind of it. So that night, at 60 years old, I went out onto the lawn of the ranch and I laid on my back.
Just like you did as a kid.
Yep. And I looked up into the sky and I said, God, what is going to become of me?
Yeah.
And I heard this voice again. Hadn't heard it since I was 9 years old, but I heard this voice deep down inside of me that said, I've given you all the tools. You just need to apply them.
Yeah.
Out of that, I got up and literally that night went into our old iMac computer and started writing. Just started writing.
Yeah.
Just writing. Didn't matter what. I had written in Vietnam. I wrote a lot of poetry when I was in Vietnam.
I love poetry. That's how I got started too. Poetry.
Yeah, my poetry stunk.
My poetry became my first book, so I hope it didn't stink because I published it.
Yeah. In college, one of my English professors told me, he said, it doesn't stink. And he said, it is really very good. And my psychology professor said, this is really powerful, what you've written in these prose. You know what I did?
Threw it out?
Burned every page of it.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was close. Throw it out, burn it.
Yeah, same thing.
Yep.
So anyway, back to the ranch, I started writing, and out of that writing came the book, Expectation Therapy, because when I started reflecting on my life and looking back, I realized I've always expected in the positive. Okay. Because I have that belief system that everything was always going to work out. I learned that I figured out that everything that happens in life is not happening to us, it's happening for us. And if you look at it as a learning experience, if you take everything in your life and you applied a learning mindset behind every event, you can't lose. You're not losing anything, you're gaining. It's a positive. And out of it, I learned that how you expect becomes the seed from which we grow and we heal. And it's everything. I have a quote that I say on my website and everything else. It's everything starts and stops with an expectation.
Yes. I actually in my one book that I published last year, an entire chapter is dedicated to expectations.
Oh, wow. I'd love to read it.
um it relates back to mental health, of course, because that's what I was the topic of the book, and how your expectations are often built from experiences from the past, from your parents, from your teachers.
That's the problem. There lies the problem with people and expectations. I have done so much research and study on this. It's become a passion of mine because
I can tell.
I believe that man has grown from the Plato, Aristotle wrote about it in 633 BC about how our expectations craft who we become. And it's based out of two theories, and this is modern science now. Modern science, negatives and positives. Everything is negative and positive, charges in our system.
Yes.
The seed of expectation was planted in man whether you choose to believe in creation or evolution or what, at some point, a seed of expectation was planted in each and every one of us, and it becomes the seed of how we grow. Because we either do it positively or negatively. We have choices. We have free will. We have all of these things that go on in our lives. But the one constant is expectation, the seed of expectation, because I will challenge you and your audience to find and tell me one thing that you do that is not based in an expectation.
You can't.
That's right.
I'm not taking that. You can't do it.
You can't. It's impossible because everything comes from an expectation that we have.
Yep.
It's our creativity, it's our passion, it's our love. Everything comes out of this expectation that we have for an event. It's what becomes our choice is whether we look at it positively or whether we look at it negatively.
Yeah. And I think we can change what we're expecting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because like I talk about in my book is how, like I was saying, you get a lot of your expectations from how you've grown up. So your parents. And I love my mom dearly. She doesn't listen to the show anyways, but I love my mom dearly. But she is the most negative, stinking person. She always expects the worst stuff to happen. And then when it does happen, it's, oh, see, I knew that was going to happen. Well, because you were expecting it to. So you're not even looking at the positives that have happened. Because there are positive, and I'll point them out to her and be like, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, they were out of your cereal at the store. I don't know. I'm just making something off the top of my head. But you were able to find this other one that you really like now. Right. So, but she won't look at that part. She'll only look at the negative part. And if it is not in what she was expecting, it doesn't exist. And so that's how.
Think of this. Think of how much your mother has missed in life.
I know.
Because of negative expectation.
Oh, I know. I used to be like that. And it took me some time, but I'm like, I'm not looking at the negative anymore. Not that I don't ever, because
you have to.
Right. But I'm choosing to look at the positive stuff and expect a positive outcome. Like my mom, when I told her I was starting this podcast, she was like, Oh, you really think people are going to listen to it? I'm like, thanks, Mom. Thanks. Appreciate that. Like, yes, I'm going to expect positive feedback. And guess what? I have had positive feedback.
You know what my reply would have been to your mom? Even if no one listens to it and I get to talk, it's got positives in it. It's got something good. Something is gonna come out of it.
Exactly. But
Because
yeah,
it does. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but look at me at 9 years old going up that hill, living this life that really I've had a charmed life. I've and I've just lived this charmed life, and then all of a sudden it gets yanked out from underneath me.
yeah.
I had a little setback, but then I came back at it. And now I'm 75 years old. I'm a go-getter. I still go after stuff. I don't let anything stop me. I don't let the negatives. I mean, I hate it that old people think at 65 you got to retire and your brain goes into this fog and because if you let it do that, it will.
Right?
You've got to remain vibrant and going, and I'm gonna go until the good Lord decides he's gonna lay me down and take me home. It's just the way it is, you know. I
Yep.
mean, that's my thinking.
Yep. My
Well,
husband my husband likes to say I'm already retired because I do what I do most often is just writing and podcasting. So I'm already retired in his eyes. And
he's
you know
just
what?
jealous.
Oh, for sure. He has to actually go out and work.
Yeah.
But he wants to do that.
Well, maybe he does. And if he does, that is perfectly fine.
Oh yeah. But he just
So,
always jokes that I'm already retired. And I'm
I
like, okay,
know.
cool.
I've heard
I'm
it.
okay with it.
I've heard it too because people don't think I work either.
Yeah.
They don't see what I do, so they don't
Right?
think you work. So, but anyway,
Right?
that's my story. That's has brought me to the, and I left one thing out.
Oh,
In 2010, I met a beautiful lady who had
okay.
never been married before. She was 10 years younger than me, never
Okay.
been married, didn't need a man, anything.
Yep.
we we've been happy ever since. I mean, I've just been blessed with having wonderful women around me that I love and they love me, and we support each other, and we just have fun and enjoy life.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
She's
Because,
getting to retire next week.
ooh, nice.
Yeah, she retires next week. She's a nurse anesthetist, does
Oh,
anesthesia.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. So many people um aren't so lucky as to even find one person that they absolutely adore, let alone two.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, do it.
It's not by accident, and it's by not settling. She never settled for somebody. She
Yep.
could have married doctors. She could have married professionals, business owners. I mean, she's told me we talk, you know, we talk a lot. And me, I never gave up hope of finding. And believe me, I kissed a lot of frogettes, and they had to kiss this old frog, you know. But eventually, we found each other. We found the perfect person. So if you know what, and I hate to use the word perfect because I don't believe in perfection, but if I found the right person for me and she found the right person for her,
Oh, I like that.
and that's what really you should be looking for, not perfection, not a perfect body, not a perfect skin. I mean, people get too caught up in the physical parts of what society expects now. They all think we should
Mm-hmm.
be married to models and everything else. When it's really is what your mentally compatibility is, how well you communicate, how
It's
well you literally physically love each other. There's so many different things that go into it.
Oh yeah, and it's so funny that you say that. So me and my husband, we always joke that neither of us could ever be with somebody else just because of our personalities. Like we mushed together on that, like you were saying, communication level so well that I don't think other people would be like would put up with me, and nobody else would put up with him. So
I
that's our running joke.
it's so funny because I have a marriage of 35 years to compare things to.
Yeah.
And I look back and I think of the times when, as much as I loved my late wife and as much as she loved me, we clashed. I mean, we clashed a lot.
Yep.
And I knew that I never wanted that again. I wanted to have the compatibility. So, that became paramount that for me, that I met, and if I was going to marry and have a relationship with somebody, it was going to be somebody who I could say, screw you, and she would go, ha ha, screw you back.
That's what me and my husband do.
And we don't take it personally. We
Yep.
just go, this is just us, and we just get it out, and we just talk for a minute, and we're back to fooling and having fun and enjoying, and it's a blessing. I said to my son one time, I said, you knew how mom and I would argue. I said, Beverly and I don't argue like that. And I said, it makes such a difference in a relationship because
Yeah.
every time couples argue, it chips away at the fabric of your relationship.
Yeah.
And if you chip away at something enough, it crumbles.
Yeah.
And it may not crumble in a divorce or anything like that, but it crumbles.
Yeah.
And it's sad that it happens, but it did happen in my relationship. I have to admit it. And looking back on it, I know now. And would I change it? Yes, I adored my first wife. I mean, I adored her.
Yep. I can tell.
The thing was, she didn't adore me.
Mm.
For her, I was her security. She knew that I was always going to be a good provider.
Yeah.
She knew that the Marine Corps motto was ingrained in me, Semper Fidelis, which is always faithful.
Ah.
She knew all those things were in me. And I honestly think, and honestly, when she passed away, she made up for the whole thing. She said to me 2 weeks before she passed away, she said, I want to release you from your marriage vows. And I went, what? I can't.
Whoa.
I said, I cannot do that. She said, no, listen to me. She said, I want to release you from your marriage vows so you are free without any inhibiting factors to find somebody that will love you as much as you have loved me.
Aw. That's so
Yeah.
sweet.
Yes, to be dying of cancer, to have lost so much weight, to have become, for lack of a better term, so much less than she was before, not
Yeah.
only physically, but mentally and everything else, to have this moment of lucidness to tell me that,
Wow.
I'll never forget it. It was such a gift because believe it or not, it really did free me. It freed me because I didn't have any guilt about looking for somebody else. Matter of fact, there was some people in the little town where our ranch is who were upset because I started dating way earlier than the 5 years that they said I should wait. Well,
Oh, not up to them.
at 65 years old, how much time have you got? At 60 years old, how much time have you got? You don't know.
Right? Yeah.
And my personality is don't put off tomorrow
Yep.
what you can do now.
Exactly.
So I started dating, and it upset people because they didn't know, they didn't understand, they were too ingrained in their own expectation of what you're supposed to do. See, let me explain to people about expectations and your own personal expectations, because your personal expectations are the most important thing inside of you. Your core expectations, mine are integrity, faithfulness, communication. I mean, it's just the way I am. I love to communicate. Simplify is built into my DNA from the Marine Corps, and my
Yep.
integrity is everything. I mean, I don't answer it to anyone else except the man up above.
Yep.
That's the only one I answer to. And I know people think that that may sound selfish, but it has a lot to do with self-care, caring for yourself, because when your core expectations are right and you live by them and you're faithful to those core expectations,
Mm-hmm.
you can't help but have positive things happen and think positive. The thing about expectations is you have to, an expectation without an action is merely a thought. It's a thought, it's a thought that stays in your head. An expectation only becomes attainable when you put an action to it.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes either reality, or as they like to say, or unrealistic. But the unrealistic and the realistic become from having positive or negative expectations.
Yes.
And let me explain that. Because if you expect that you're going to go out and sit on your butt and become a millionaire, that's an unrealistic expectation. Millionaire.
You mean that's not gonna happen for me?
Unless you buy lottery tickets, but you still have to take the action to go.
I don't do that either.
Lottery ticket. Well, let me tell you that you had some unrealistic expectations about money.
Damn. Just burst my bubble. I don't think I like you anymore.
Anyway, realistic expectations, if you work at them and you work in what I call increments, you take off, you can't eat an elephant all at once. You have to eat it one bite at a time. So take your expectations, and they can be lofty. I mean, think of all the professional athletes. Think of Elon Musk. Think of Richard Branson. Think of Bill Gates. Think of all of them. They didn't start out saying, I'm going to be the CEO of the largest corporation in America, become one of the second and third, fourth largest man in the world.
Yeah.
They built it piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. Henry Ford. You can go through every successful entrepreneur and you will look back at them and see that they did everything in incremental portions to become who they are.
Yeah.
We are under this belief today that you don't have to do anything to become rich, famous, whatever they want to be. They just, if you just show up and you just exist, it doesn't happen that way. I get in trouble at church sometimes because I get really mad at people that say, I'm going to pray for this and I'm going to pray for that and I'm going to pray for that. And I'll say to them, yeah, you're going to pray, but what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because God did not create us to sit and pray. God gave us all these tools and all these experiences in life to teach us how to grow, to become who we were meant to be the best version of ourselves. You know what? I'm not rich, I'm not famous, I'm not many things, but I am happy because I have done everything up. So I fulfilled the promise. I've lived to the fullest capabilities. So, I'm happy. And that's where my happiness comes from. I'm happy with just living. I've got to live this beautiful life for 75 years. Now I'm teaching people how they can become happy, how they can be stress-free, whether you own a business, whether you're in a marriage. I teach people how to be stress-free because the stress comes from unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. And stress is a killer.
Oh, it kills you quickly. It'll take years off of your life.
Yep.
So learn how to manage your expectations and you'll live as long as I have.
Or longer.
I can't guarantee it, but I'm not done yet. My thing is I keep telling people I'm going to live to be 135.
Oh, dang. Okay. Do it.
That's a lofty expectation.
I like it.
But I'm doing all the right things to get there.
Yes, it does seem that way.
I eat, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I eat healthy. I just try to take care of my body.
Yep.
And I hear it all the time. You don't look 75. You don't have
I was
75.
thinking that. I was thinking
You know, so I mean,
that.
who's to say I'm wrong?
Yeah, no. So, what is, I love asking this question. It's one of the few that I tend to ask most guests, as we talked about how it's all conversational. But what is your piece of advice that you would give to somebody? So, just like you were, that little boy, 8 years old, life is falling apart. You're like, ugh, I don't even know. What would you give as a piece of advice to somebody in that same position?
Piece of advice I would give is listen to your gut. Listen to what your gut tells you because it never lies to you. Your gut never lies. If I tell people quite often, look back on your life and think about the things that you regret and try to remember what your gut was telling you. And so often I hear my gut was telling me, don't do that.
Mm.
And I went ahead and did it because I thought that it would be best. Well, quit thinking.
I
Trust your gut, but
like that one.
learn how to manage your expectations. Learn how to manage all phases of your life, and the other part of it is become a doer. Don't sit and expect things to come to you. Go get them. Go make them happen. Go create. Become a creator. I tell when I speak to middle school and high school kids, I always tell them, and they get a big kick out of this. I said, go out and become doers. Do, make do all over the earth.
Maybe I want to name the episode doo doo.
That's good. But think about it. If we're doing things, we're being constructive, we're being creative. Of course, you could be doing things negative too. Don't go out and rob banks. Don't go out and
Yeah,
say
yeah.
hurtful things to people. But I'm talking about people having positive existence, living in the positives, not living in those negatives. We have those negative moments, but living in the positives and just do. But it brings me to one other question that I get asked often when I speak to not only young people, but old people, middle-aged people, business people. They'll
People.
ask me, sir, how do you expect the unexpected? How do you expect the unexpected? My answer to them is, you prepare for the unexpected. Well, how do you prepare for the unexpected? It's having a mindset of knowing that unexpected things pop up in life. There is
Mm.
no set map for how our lives are going to go. There is always the unexpecteds. So what do is you prepare. And I learned this in Vietnam because we could never, every step you took, the unexpected could happen.
Yes.
So what you have to do is prepare yourself in advance for the different things that could happen. Possibly, you just have to go through and prepare your mind to this mindset that anything is possible at any time in your life. And by doing that, it helps you when the unexpected does happen, because you go, unexpected. What am I going to do? Am I going to flee? Am I going to fight? What am I going to do? And
Yeah.
it becomes, I can tell you this. For 3 years, when my wife was dying of cancer, our expectation was that she was going to beat it.
Yes.
6 months before she passed away, we learned that she was going to pass away. In that 6 months, I've never dealt with what was gonna, I prepared for it, but I never dealt with it.
Yeah.
And the moment she passed away is when I fell apart.
Mm.
And you got to give yourself time to grieve and process and all those things. So I'm not I'm not trying to be cruel when I tell people about, expect the unexpected, because my own experience was is I fell apart when it happened,
Yeah.
but I recovered. Some people remain when unexpected things happen to them. They don't let themselves process. They don't let themselves go through the journey of grieving and if it's a loss or, and it could be a loss of a spouse, a child, a business. I mean, loss comes in many different forms and shapes.
The loss of your home, the loss of the friends that you
It's
knew, the loss of playing games outside.
everything. I mean, there's all factor into what loss is. So, you got to give yourself time to heal and think and process.
Yeah.
So that's where part of the management of expectations come in, because once you start learning how to manage your expectations and what you can do, and that's what we do with people that we work with. We actually lay out a lot of planning. It's a lot of expectation therapy is about planning,
Ah.
to get them structured back into thinking right. So, it's really interesting. It's very effective what we've done. So, and it's based on real life.
Yes.
And I believe that it gets to the root, because I believe that our expectations are the seed from which we grow, and it's also the seed from which we shrink.
Mm.
So you can look at it either way, either grow from it or shrink from it, but managing becomes paramount. So
Yeah. Excellent. So I think that's a great way to end, the meat and potatoes of the episode. And now tell us what it is that you've written and where do we find it?
uh, I mentioned the book Expectation Therapy is actually the only book I did. It's a short, easy read. It was written for the layman to be able to understand, because there's physics involved in it and a lot of science that's into it. But this is all about, the book is simply written, and at the end of each chapter are actual bullet points that you could
Oh, okay.
take. I've written a workbook that goes along with it. I have an online course that we are relaunching here in, I would say, the next month. The new course is going to come out, online course, and
Okay.
it will start out with the basics of expectation at a very affordable module that you can take to learn how to manage your expectations. And then we're gonna offer expectations for business owners, expectation for divorcees, expectations for parents who have lost a child,
Wow.
expectations for children that are going in transition to high school or college or
That's a big one. Yeah. Big
civilian
change.
life. There's going to be many, many modules written over the next couple years that will complement the main course. But get the main course and you'll see your life change. Website is theartofexpectation.com. Books on Amazon. It's in audio, hardback, soft cover.
Love audio.
Yeah, everybody loves audio. And I'm on all the social media platforms, just Expectation Therapy or The Art of Expectation. And that's how you can find me. And I'm available for everybody.
Wonderful. And we're going to stick those links down in the description below. So be sure to click them, follow, see all of the exciting things that are coming up, because it sounds like you got a lot of work ahead of you. But that's okay, because you're living to 130, right? So you got years.
And I don't mind work.
There you go. Yeah, I don't think I could ever be totally 100% retired without doing something like writing or podcasting or just something, because I would get bored. I know a few people who are retired and they literally do nothing all day. And
I tried it for a couple months about a year ago. I thought, I'm going to retire after I shut my podcast down, and I said I'm going to retire. Well, that lasted about 2.5 minutes.
it's just boring. I like to do stuff.
I like to be creative, but more so I like to help people.
Yeah.
And that's really where my self-satisfaction comes in. My
Yeah.
self-prophecy, is I love helping people and just making their lives better and letting them know that there's no need to wallow in the muck, because the muck will get you awful dirty.
It's true. So thank you again, Art, for coming on the show, hanging out with us, sharing your whole life story.
Yeah, I'm blessed, Randy. Thank you.
All right. So again, everybody, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. Follow along. I think everybody could use some of these courses Art's talking about, so check them out as they come. Yeah, we'll talk again soon. As always, thank you so much for the amazing guests that we have on the show. Be sure to check out their links down in the description below. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and check out our merch store. We've got some very cool things on there. That's my favorite. Sorry, I'm busy ending the stigma. But there's some other very cool designs. 10% of the proceeds always goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at RB Media, because we have some great new shows coming up and you never want to miss any of those episodes. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.